Oatly, we know it's cheeky and it's humorous. Liquid Death, it's very rebellious. Apple, as we said before, is cool and smart. And Nike, for example, comes across as inspiring and empowering. But Apple would not sound as cool or sophisticated if they used the same font that Oatly was using. And Liquid Death wouldn't sound rebellious if they used the same photography as Nike. So brand personality is definitely something that goes hand in hand with your brand values, but then also your visual identity. The question is, though, how do we actually do the thing? How do you actually identify what your brand personality is? How can you nail it down if you don't have existing guidelines to follow or you aren't a brand voice expert? So today I'm going to show you some easy ways to narrow it down so you can start building out some brand voice guidelines for yourself, or you can take existing guidelines and refine them if you need to based on any changes that your company might have gone through over the last few months or years. Hi everyone, excited to be here with you today. My name is Eden Bidani and welcome to today's lesson where we're going to be diving into identifying your brand's personality. The reason why we're in this lesson today is because personality is one of the 4 building blocks that go into building a brand voice, and it's the foundation, it's the key element, and it's our starting point. Together, all these 4 building blocks help you create a very strong brand voice with very clear guidelines that make it easy for you to use, easy for others on your team or your company to use, other writers if you outsource your writing to them as well. But at the same time, you can use these guidelines to train any AI writing tools that you use so that their output is more aligned with your company's brand voice and is much more accurate. As I mentioned just briefly, personality is the first and most important element of brand voice as it helps define the overall direction that you're going in. Brand personality is what kind of person or brand or company you are as a whole. It forms that critical first impression that people have of your brand. So if you think of your brand as a person, visual identity, for example, colors, logos, and fonts, it's what your brand looks like and what they're addressed as. But your brand personality is what your brand sounds like when they start talking. It's the kind of, if they smile, do they wink at you? Do they laugh? Do they talk through their nose? They talk down at you? Do they speak eye to eye? This is what we mean when we're talking about brand personality. I'll give you a few examples. Apple, for example, always comes across as cool and sophisticated. It's light on words and copy, and their visual language is also very smooth and sophisticated. Their ads look smart and sound smart, and they kind of make you feel smart for reading them. And that's the impression that they want you to have from their brand, that they are cool, their products are cool and sophisticated, just like they sound. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, Old Spice wants to be humorous and fun-loving. This ad is specifically body odor protection recommended by former TP doctors like me. It's a very tongue-in-cheek stab at all the deodorant ads out there that include pictures of dermatologists in white coats saying, I recommended by doctors. Old Spice want to make you smile, they want to make you laugh and have you transfer those emotions of feelings onto their brand. So that's exactly what they're doing here. At the same time, your brand personality is directly influenced by your brand's values, your company's vision, mission, the narrative, or company story. This includes your positioning. What does your company want to be known for and remembered for? Do you want to be remembered as being innovative like Microsoft? Do you want to be remembered for bringing people together to have fun like Coca-Cola? Or is it how you make people happy like McDonald's? And lastly, brand personality is tightly aligned with your brand's visual identity, from the colors you use in your color palette to the types of images in photography, the fonts, the symbols, icons, and everything else. So think back to some examples that we've seen in the past, or you've probably seen on social media. Oatly, we know it's cheeky and it's humorous. Liquid Death, it's very rebellious. Also humorous at times, but very rebellious. Apple, as we said before, is cool and smart. And Nike, for example, comes across as inspiring and empowering. But Apple would not sound as cool or sophisticated if they used the same font that Oatly was using. And Liquid Death wouldn't sound rebellious if they used the same photography as Nike. So brand personality is definitely something that goes hand in hand with your brand values, but then also your visual identity. So let's get started. First, I'd go back to your brand's values. So if your company has any kind of brand deck, a pitch deck, a product marketing deck, or any type of messaging or communications blueprint, that should be your first point of call. You want to look at the founder's story or your company narrative or manifesto if you have one. You want to look at the vision and mission, see what kinds of words are being used there, what kind of themes come out of those elements. For example, Lego's brand values include creativity, learning, caring, fun, imagination, and quality. And these are things that come through and are expressed through their brand voice, and as well, all the elements of the touch points of their brand. At the same time, Aldi's values center around consistency, simplicity, and responsibility. So again, like I mentioned, go back and look at the words that the founders using, the executive team are using in the vision, mission, brand manifesto story. If you have dedicated brand values, also take a look at those. They should give you some really good hints as to where your brand voice should lie, and figure out which characteristics are aligned with those themes. Next is going back and looking at your company or brand's visual identity or brand style guide if you have one. Take a look at the images used and the fonts. Are the fonts bold? Are they rounded fonts? Are they serif or sans serif? What kind of colors are used? Are you using muted colors, bright neon colors? At the same time, what kind of imagery are you using? Are you using cartoons? Are you using hand-drawn cartoons? For example, Notion uses black and white cartoons to emphasize the simplicity, and they have a very, very restricted color palette at the same time. Whereas a lot of other big tech companies use stock images, which has a different varying kind of impact on how people interpret them. But take a look again, like I said, visual identity has an impact on that brand personality. So what are these fonts and images trying to tell us about Ben & Jerry's? And what are the fonts and images used here trying to tell us about innocent drinks? If you don't have any existing brand guidelines or clear visual identity, or you're just plain stuck, you can always look at brand archetypes for inspiration to help you narrow down onto a clearer direction. Brand archetypes are based on human psychology and reflect different types of characters and functions that are more or less universally recognized across different cultures. For example, when you think of a hero, what does that mean to you? Often we have an immediate image that springs to mind of representative of a hero. It's someone that comes, it's rescuing people, it's there to do hard work, they're self-sacrificing. Or you might think of a hero has a very big ego, which some of them do. They're very assertive at the same time. Likewise, if you were to think of a magician archetype, or an outlaw, or a wise person, or a sage, immediately we have these kind of mental images and associated personalities or characteristics that we expect or that come to mind when we think of these archetypes. So if you feel that your brand is a hero, think what kind of personality traits are associated with that. And if your brand is a combination of archetypes, which most brands usually are, just like people, we're multifaceted, a chart like this can help you drill down deeper into your brand's personality. And last but not least, you can also look to well-known characters and celebrities. This is similar to looking to brand archetypes to help you define a direction, but it might even be easier for you. In the past, a lot of people would say, if your brand was an animal, what kind of animal would it be? But you can't really get a lot of depth out of thinking your brand is a peacock or a zebra or a lion. But you can get a little bit more depth out of picturing your brand as a celebrity or a character. Who would they be and what would they sound like? Is your brand warm, caring, and supportive like Samwise from Lord of the Rings? Or a reluctant rebel leader like Katniss from The Hunger Games? Is your brand super cool, sophisticated, and authoritative like Beyonce? Or are they casually confident and humorous like Sir Richard Branson? Once you have a general idea of the direction you're going in, all you need to do is then choose 3 to 5 keywords that reflect your brand personality. So I've pulled together a short list for you for some of the most common types of characteristics to help you get started. By all means, this is not an exhaustive list, so you're welcome to go ahead and Google for more or ask an AI writing tool for even more comprehensive list of characteristics, which then you get to choose from. Again, don't outsource this to AI. This is really important for you to do by yourself. So to recap, we covered today what brand personality is, what it's influenced by, and what it needs to be aligned with. We also covered the 4 different ways of different methods that you can use to help identify your brand's personality. So going back to your brand values, visual identity, and brand guidelines, brand archetypes, or characters and celebrities. Are there any other copywriting topics you'd like to learn about? You can leave a comment on this video or reach out to CXL and we might just make the next video about that. But go ahead and start digging into your brand's personality and looking forward to see what you come up with.